Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and this is Ginny O Talks, the part of the channel where I talk about things going on in the creative community. And welcome to my new apartment. So, because I've moved, I've been able to put my desk and my bookshelves in a new configuration, so I now have a much nicer background to record against. So hopefully, in the near future, I'll be able to do more videos where you see my face versus, having me behind the screen all the time. So as you can see over here, we have some of my favorite classic fantasy, including The Princess Bride. And then over here, we have my books. And the ones you can't see, this is like mostly sci-fi section, and this way is fantasy. So kind of right here in the middle of my bookshelves for stuff. So we might be getting up, or I might be taking some stuff off to talk about what today's creative industry topic is: the Department of Justice versus Penguin Random House. So I don't know if you've heard or have been up on what's going on Book Talk or the book community. Is the Department of Justice has taken up a monopoly monopsy case versus Penguin Random House because Penguin Random House wants to buy out Simon and Schuster. If you are an indie author or if you write fan fiction, you might know of Simon and Schuster because Simon and Schuster is the one with the contract with Wattpad. So if you get a book on Wattpad that is selling enough digital copies, they might offer you a contract with Simon and Schuster to get your book through the printers and onto bookstore shelves. Very much a unicorn case, but there you go. So the Department of Justice is arguing that if Penguin Random House buys out Simon and Schuster, it's going to be bad for authors, and Penguin Random House and Simon Schuster are arguing that nothing's going to change, really, because we said so. We have this magic jazz hands, and we're just going to make it so. As authors sit here and go, oh boy. So the first week of the trial, Stephen King, you're not going to hear me say this a lot, bless him, came to testify on behalf of the Department of Justice about his experience in the last 50 years of him publishing and how it was different back then to start being a debut author versus being a debut author now in 2020. And what was really funny was the Penguin Random House lawyers refused or declined to cross-examine Stephen King. Gee, I wonder why. But Stephen King did introduce himself as a freelance author, which is the truth. All authors are freelance, and if you're indie, you're self-employed. Freelance authors who are published through the traditional publishing industry have absolutely no guarantees, even with contracts that, of how many books are going to be published on their next publishing run, and what their next advance is going to look like. You might get one book published, but there's absolutely no guarantee that your next book is going to be published. It all depends on sale. So that is why big authors in the traditional publishing industry are constantly writing more books, because it's their backlist and the royalties that they get from their backlist that are paying the bills, not really these advances. The advances are nice, might allow them to put stuff away in savings account for a rainy day, or build a catio for their cats or something. It's not a reliable, steady income like their royalties are once they've earned out their advance. So the Department of Justice is kind of arguing Economics 101. So in Economics 101, if you have, especially in our capitalistic society, if you have a lot of different people producing the same type of product, in this case books, then you have a lot more opportunities for creative people, and you will have a lot more variety out on the market, and author wages, aka advances in royalties, go up because companies are forced to compete against each other to get what they feel are the best or, hottest ideas in products. So, okay, let me grab a book. So let's say 50 years ago, I decided to query The Lone Prospect as cozy werewolf slice of life drama. Okay, that's what it is. I can't call it urban fantasy because it's not a mystery. I guess they decided to box urban fantasy into, noir type mysteries for some reason. So, and so I queried it, I got an agent excited about it, and the agent, got it to an editor, and the editor got excited about it, and the editor starts to shop it around to different publishing houses. So I get one publisher going, well, I'll give you a $3,000 advance, and, we'll put it in XY places, like $3,000. I mean, $3,000 50 years ago was a lot of money. Now, here in 2020, $3,000 is not enough to pay my rent and keep food on my table for 3 months. Like, that's not a lot of money. I mean, I might have a finished product already, but you're not guaranteeing, me that you're going to want to sell my next book, or you're not giving me any indication that you're just going to do more than print it and put it on a bookshelf. So, why should I go with you? So maybe we take this book and we shop it around to a bunch of other publishers. And, there's publishers like, oh, I am so excited about your book. So I want to give you $8,000. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on, we're going to buy enough shelf space so that we can turn it out. And we're going to make sure that your book goes on the new table at the front of the bookstore. And, and I'm going to shop it to these particular reviewers who love your type of book, so that people who read these reviewers, who love the type of books these reviewers read, can find out about it. And and we're gonna do all this for you. Okay, I mean $8,000. But by now, somebody's heard, there's a rumor going around, oh, there's this hot new type of book, that's a cozy werewolf drama, slice of life, found family, slow burn romance. This could be really popular. So they're like, oh, no. We all want to bid on this book, So they start tossing out numbers and saying, oh, if you come to us, we can help negotiate movie rights, or we can negotiate a deal to get a television show, which, not guaranteed. No guarantee on whether or not, even if you do shop the rights out, that a television show would be made. But, so there's hype starting to build around the book, and then, your advance starts going up, and then it comes down to two people, how much are these publishing houses willing to pay for the book? My cozy werewolf slice of life drama. Yeah, this would never happen in real life to this particular book, but I mean, I just want to be able to. Now, this kind of sort of still happens because publishing houses have hundreds of imprints. There's only 5 big publishing houses now: Penguin Random House, Simon and Schuster, Hachette, HarperCollins, and Macmillan. So they have hundreds of imprints underneath them because they've absorbed Tor and Bane and Orbit and Harlequin and blah blah blah, and other type of small publishers. So they're saying that the imprints that they have are fighting against each other to get these books. But a lot of times the imprints do not have the same type of marketing or same type of genres. So sure, ROC, Tor, and Bane were all fantasy imprints, but I don't think any of them, and Orbits was Penguin's fantasy imprint there for a while. So, these different imprints, they're all in different houses. They might not, and if they have imprints of the same type, they tend to merge them or get rid of them, even if they open up new imprints later. That doesn't mean it's any helpful for the people who were being printed by that imprint. Now their book's out of print. Oh dear. Now they have to shop it around to see if they can find somebody else who's willing to publish it so it will stay on the shelves. So it still comes down to the fact that you only have 5 chances, to get your book out there to begin with, to even get it into being consideration to these different publishing houses. And if Penguin Random House buys out Simon and Schuster, you get 4 chances. Now, and that's bad because corporate, okay, this is bad because corporate hegemony type stuff. Corporates, the big people, the big businesses, not the little businesses, not the mom and pops, the big businesses, like the big publishing houses or the big corporations behind video games or the big corporations behind television and entertainment industry. It's becoming a very, everybody's having these problems. These big corporations are the ones who set market value. And through market value and market share, they set wages. So what the Department of Justice is arguing, and what people like Stephen King are arguing, and agents are arguing, and other authors are arguing, people who watch this type of thing are arguing, is that if they take the big 5 and merge them down to big 4, we're going to have even less competition, which is going to drive down wages for the workers. You're going to have people who are going to be laid off, even though Penguin Random House is going, oh, not a lot of people are going to be laid off, really, but we can't tell you that until we actually merge here. We don't know. And, they're trying to make it out that marketing people and editors and stuff won't be on and illustrators and so on for the children's imprints won't be on the chopping block. And then when you look through their stuff, yes, these people would be on the chopping block. They would end up firing editors. They would end up firing people who do the formatting and illustrators, and it's just like you're saying one thing out of one side of your mouth and you're saying something else out the other, and all the paperwork that you're giving the Department of Justice is saying something else. All of your depositions are saying something else. And so these corporate hegemonies can, if they're monopolies or monopsonies, they set the prices. And unless, you can form some sort of labor movement like the actors did with the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild did for Hollywood, you have no power. You can't push back against these huge corporations and and demand better pay type of thing. And yes, we do have, in America, we have writers associations, which, you know, try to act as writer guilds, I guess. You know, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, the Romance Writers of America, the Horror Writers of America. And I don't know if you've ever looked at, you know, their requirements to enter these groups. A debut author is not going to have entrance into these groups for these groups to be able to go, oh, this is a bad thing, you know, this is happening to one of our writers, so we're going to push back against the corporations and help out. I mean, when Disney didn't want to play Orson Scott Card, sure, you know, Orson Scott Card is an established member of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, so they were more than willing to step in and, you know, be like, hey, Disney, come on, pay the guy. His wife's got cancer. Just pay him. And, you know, Disney did eventually back down and pay, you know, the royalties that they had bought the rights to for Splinters of the Mind Eye to Orson Scott Card. And, you know, it is things like that that, you know, really go to show that if corporations think they can get away with it, they won't pay people. And it used to be 50 years ago that the CEO worker wage gap was 30 times. You know, the CEO earned 30 times what the average worker at their shop earned. Now the average CEO earns 300 times what the average worker does at their shops. And for writers, for authors, if in case we do have royalties coming in and, you know, we're getting advances on a regular basis, we are earning $8 to $10 an hour, I think, is what one of the studies that they did in the UK was doing. And in the UK, if your books are taken out through circulation to the library, you get something out of it. That's not the case here in the United States of America. We're not getting, if, you know, our books go into the library, we're not getting 10, 15 cents, you know, every time that they're taken out and put into circulation. It just doesn't happen. So, you know, we're technically probably earning even less as American authors. Something else they were trying to argue, Penguin Random House, was that Amazon and Disney in particular, they also used Scholastic, were competition for the big five. Which, if you are an indie author or know anything about how Disney works, is complete and utter bullhocking. Disney and Amazon are not acquiring authors. I am an independent author through Amazon. Amazon is a distributor and print-on-demand service. I do my own covers. I do my own back blurbs. I have to put the information in on the page myself. I have to choose my own keywords. If I wanted to buy any ads, I would have to buy an ads package myself. If I want to buy a Kirkus ad, if I want a Kirkus review for my book, and I might as well just call it Kirkus ads, I would have to submit my book and pay $400 to $500, I believe was the last time I checked, to have a Kirkus review of my book. If I wanted to do a book blog tour, and I do know a couple businesses that organize this, I would have to pay for that myself and supply the PDFs for the reviewers to read. So that means I am out of however many, you know, reviewers are going to review the book. I'm out of however, I could be out of, you know, if I get $2.17 for an ebook sale and I've got 10 reviewers, well, I'm out of $20 worth of royalties right there, and I have to hope that those reviewers have enough people to justify that $20 worth of missed royalties, you know, that people are going to read the review and be like, "Ooh, I want to read a cozy slice of life werewolf drama with slow burn romance," and go buy my book, you know. And if I got one sale, okay, at least I'd be breaking even. But I can't even guarantee one sale out of a book blog tour. And I have absolutely no way of getting my book in front of, you know, buyers at bookstores unless I pay for it and spend $5,000 with Ingram Spark to, you know, print my book, and then, you know, you have to shop it around yourself to indie bookstores, because most often big bookstores like Books A Million and Barnes & Noble, unless you're extremely local, they're not going to carry your book. They don't want to carry your book because they know it's just not going to sell. So I would have to shop it around for indie bookstores, and if the book doesn't sell, if they don't sell all the copies and get them out of the warehouse, it's on me. I either I have to pay for disposal, or I have to, you know, they will pay for the shipping for them to ship all the extra books that didn't go out to indie store shelves back. And, you know, if I get returns, that's on me too. Even Amazon, if there are returns on Amazon, that comes against me. So if you buy my book and you don't like it, so you return my book, I get charged. Even if I did like an Audible book, if you listen to my book, you know, and we're like, ugh, I don't want to keep this in my Audible thing, and you return it, I get charged. They're not helping me, you know, with editing. They're not doing any type of marketing for me. I am completely independent, and all I'm using them for is a distribution service and a print-on-demand service, because that's where the indie market still is on Kindle. I mean, do you think I really want to be doing business with Amazon? Come on. And so and you know, like Penguin Random House is going, well, Colleen Hoover's book that she did through Amazon back in 2012 made the independent New York Times bestseller list. We have crossed the Rubicon. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. Like yes, okay. Amazons will have agents that help walk you through the process of publishing your book on their site. But in order to get one of those agents who will help you get, you know, the best keywords and choose the best ad sales and, you know, push your book and get your name on the side of the search bar thing, you have to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of units of sales as you cater to the Amazon algorithm by posting a book every 3 months. I don't know about you, but I can't. If you've ever tried to write a nano, at the time, you know, you're writing a 50,000 word page, a 50,000 word book in a month, and by the end of that month, your brain is fried. That's how it really is. You would be constantly churning out a book. Pretty much, you have to have a book either in process, or you're editing a book every month, and you don't get any time off at all because of this. You know, if you're pushing a book every 3 months, just to keep on top of the Amazon algorithms, so people who, you know, are looking at new books can see your name. It's basically you're writing pulp novels, and there's nothing really against pulp novels. It's just a lot of pulp novels, which I'm going to include like a lot of IP works like Animorphs and Sweet Valley High and Goosebumps. You have a Warrior Cats. You would have like a team of people working on this. You would have a whole bunch of ghostwriters under one name doing this. And yes, some of these people who are writing to algorithms like that do have ghostwriters working on their books, and they're publishing underneath them. you know, they're publishing the books under a particular name. You know, James Patterson has now become a pulp writer, basically. And, but he's a billionaire and owns his own publishing things, so I guess he can do whatever he wants. Even though it would be nicer if he would publish those books under the, you know, the people who's actually writing the names instead of his own as written by, you know, in little tiny letters underneath it. But that's not James Patterson's way, I guess. So Amazon is not a publisher. They don't have book and mortar bookstores either. You know, they're not out there acquiring authors. Disney is not acquiring authors. Disney's writing for books, publishing books for Disney IP, which Disney comes up with in-house. They're not going around, you know, soliciting for, you know, eager young authors and stuff to submit ideas to be put under the Disney brand. That's just ridiculous. They're not doing that. Scholastic has a very specific target market, and that target market is school kids. So, children's kindergarten to high school, which is why Harry Potter fit into the Scholastic brand, because she was starting with middle grade and she was going up to a like 18-year-old Harry, so you know, senior in high school for American students. So in A levels over in England. So they were so it was a good fit for the Scholastic brand. But a lot of Scholastic books are, again, IP type books, you know, Santa Club, Chincoteague, I want to say the Arthur books are under Scholastic. But there's a, you know, Nickelodeon, the same thing. They're not a publisher. They're not out there soliciting for authors to submit to them to get new IPs. So, yes, Scholastic will take a new author from, you know, will take new authors, but a lot of their books are being, are essentially IP books that are being, you know, quote unquote, either ghostwritten or they have authors in their stable that they trust to write these IPs. So they'll go back to those authors time and time again, you know. It so it is just disingenuous and gross, I guess, for Penguin Random House to be trying to put forth the idea that Amazon is a competitor and not a customer. And they don't even believe it themselves. Like, an email came out from from Karp, who I think is the Penguin Random House CEO, or Simon and Schuster CEO, he's one of the two. And he was like, oh, once we, you know, we don't think that they're going to really let us buy out Simon and Schuster, but once we do, we're going to work with Amazon to be you know, to have them be a better customer for our books. They're not really a competitor, like, and I'm paraphrasing, but even he understands that, you know, indie authors on Amazon, they're not competition. You know, how can any indie author really be competition when we have to publish you know, put our first book out there for free, and we have to kind of work around Amazon's system in order to do it, because, you know, you have to put it up for free on Draft Digital or Smashwords before you can put it up for free on Amazon, because they do price matching, and then you have to and then you have books for 99 cents. I mean, and you're putting them out constantly. And it's not like in the algorithms will still, over indie books, still will push Harry Potter. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I go into the science fiction and fantasy section of of Amazon or even Barnes & Noble itself, and what I'm getting is I want new things, as in new, you know, coming out in 2022 type of things, and I'm seeing Harry Potter and Isaac Asimov and Tolkien for the 101st time, Neil Gaiman, and nothing against Neil Gaiman, but it's just, okay, that's nice, but please stop reprinting these books so we can actually get some new authors up there on the top of the charts on the algorithms for under new on Amazon. And this is also coming at a bad time too for authors and traditional authors, because Barnes & Noble has a new CEO from Waterstones. And Waterstones is a European book chain, and they do things a lot differently in Europe than we do in America. And this new CEO has decided that he wants to apply the Waterstones philosophy to Barnes & Noble. And the Waterstones philosophy is, we will want to focus on our soft cover book sales. So we are only going to put on our shelves hardcover books that are doing really, really well, with no indication of what metric they're using to say, you know, your hardcover book is going to qualify. And this is getting a lot of debut authors and a lot of authors who, you know, maybe they're on their 4th or 5th book, and but it's a first run, so they're, you know, so Barnes & Noble's is going, we're not going to stock your book until it comes out in paperback. And the publishing industry had flipped since the 2000s to 2010 era. In the, you know, 2000s to 2010 era, when you were a debut author, particularly if you were a debut adult author, I'm not entirely sure what was going on in the young adult space, because that was the time the young adult space was really kind of finding its legs. So when you were an adult author, you would have to publish 4, 5, 6 books in paperback that sold really, really well before you were like an acceptable risk, and the publishing industry would put your books out in hardcover, which is really hard on book collectors, because we would have, you know, 4 or 5 books of this series and soft cover, and then, oh, well, now this next book is coming out or we would have it in soft cover, and now the next book is coming out in hardcover, and we really want to read the book, and we really want to support this author because, you know, we really enjoyed the series. And it's just like, but now we're going to have a bunch of these soft cover books, and then this really out of place hardcover, and every book after it's going to come out in hardcover, and we have absolutely no guarantee that the previous books are going to get hardcover runs or not. So, you know, it was just like really, really difficult for book collectors there. And then around the 2010s, and probably Harry Potter is partly to blame for this, publishers kind of flipped the script. And publishers started giving debuts and, you know, first run books hardcover editions right off the bat, rather than making the author prove themselves first with soft covers and then getting hardcovers later. So, especially in the young adult space, that you were getting a lot of debut hardcover books. Now, this is really great for big libraries with big circulation, because hardcover books last longer and they circulate more, for the most part. I've had some really poorly bound hardcover books in my time. But it's, on the other hand, it's really bad for little tiny libraries like the one down the street from me that I can walk to now, which is in the first floor of an old house, is that the hardcovers last too long, and that means they can't, you know, change out the contents of their library as often, so they would prefer soft covers because soft covers, they can buy 2 or 3 soft covers for the price of one hardcover type of thing. So, they flipped the script so everybody was getting hardcovers first, and, the hardcover had been this, like, status symbol, and now everybody had the status symbol, and now this very traditionally slow to change industry is being hit by, out of the blue, because Barnes & Noble did not say anything to anybody until the announcement 2 weeks before this is supposed to go into effect for some people. Like, people were having debuts coming out in a couple weeks' time and stuff, and they were getting calls from their agent and from their publishers to go tell them, we've just been called by Barnes & Noble to tell you that Barnes & Noble is not going to carry your book. Now, for debut authors who they went to go cry in a corner, basically, because this means for them, their career is over before it even started. And, it's all these hopes and dreams, all the hoops that they've gone through, the querying, the getting it through the editor pitching it to the publishing houses, the publishing houses choosing an imprint for it to go to, type of thing, putting it in front of book buyers and librarians and to the New York Times and ARC readers and stuff like that, and the influences, all the stuff they've done is a moot point because now their people can't go to the bookstore and find it on the shelf. It's just not going to be there. You can try to market a book all you want, but if your book doesn't exist on the shelf and people can't buy it, they're just going to be like, I forget about it. Or maybe they will go to Amazon, but a lot of people don't want to support Amazon in that way. And then you have people, and this was happening for books, people who had, this their 4th book or 5th book, and it's coming out in hardcover, and now it's just not going to be on the shelves. And so the industry is not prepared, or given any warning that they needed to switch back to their previous publishing philosophy of, okay, we do softcover books first, and then a year later you get a hardcover, instead of we do hardcover first, and then a year later you get softcover. It's not nimble, there's not a lot of printers, and there's not a lot of, we've been having these paper shortages too, so that's not helping things. So Barnes & Noble is going, hey, we're just going to put hardcovers on our shelves that we know are going to sell really well. And they're not giving us any metric. And I've been kind of worried about this for a while, because I have been seeing a trend, is particularly in Amazon, and particularly in, because Barnes & Noble's doing those electronic sales. As books became more and more, you buy it off the internet, and you buy it from a company you want to support, be it Barnes & Noble or Borders or Books A Million, or or Amazon, just because Amazon is so quote unquote convenient. I had been noticing more and more emphasis on pre-sales. And this is the only metric I can think of that Barnes & Noble could use to say, we know your book is going to sell really well because we have X amount of pre-sales on this book. And the book industry is not the first industry to try to use this pre-sale method to say, to determine print runs and to determine what books are going to go on shelves. The comic industry had tried this and is still using this, and the comic industry is kind of like trickling to a dead halt, and the only really thing keeping it going in any kind of way, shape, or form other than electronic sales is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Keeping the, comics, keeping these characters and the comics into the subconscious, the conscious of popular culture type of thing. And you have a lot of people who enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe who have absolutely no interest in picking up the comics because, let's face it, the comics are really, really confusing and really hard to, get into anymore. So, when comics started doing this, oh, we're going to use pre-sales to judge how a print run, who's going on shelves and whatever, the comics industry almost immediately started to stagnate, and they saw sales drop off because this is part of the book industry. How your sales funnel in the book industry is a lot different than a sales funnel for a lot of other industries. Like, yes, okay, I have heard radio commercials for books. I think it is the weirdest thing ever, but I have heard it. But if they're doing a radio advertisement for your book, you are a really, really big author who probably got a really big advance for them to justify doing that type of marketing. Like, it's not cheap to take out a book advertisement, say in the New York Times, or any. It's not cheap to create like a book commercial. You're not going to put a book commercial on TV. You've never earned that money back, type of thing. So what the book community relies on for sales funnel is the book actually being in a store. So you go into the store and you browse and you're looking for what is new. I like this person. What is new similar to this person? Which is why publishing, puts out 18 different authors of urban fantasy. If you like this one person in urban fantasy, okay, surely you're going to like these other people of urban fantasy. It's why Harlequin has like 6 or 7 or 8, I don't know how many different versions of romance they have, but they have specific brands of romance within Harlequin that have titles, so that when you go to look for a Harlequin romance and you like a specific type of romance, you know exactly which Harlequin imprint type you're looking for to go to the shelves and go, I like this person. Like, okay, I like some paranormal romance. Not all of it, but some. And so, like, if I'm going to the shelf and I'm like, I like Thea Harrison, who is like Thea Harrison? If she had been a Harlequin author, then I would know, okay, I need to find the Harlequin imprint that Thea Harrison was under and say, oh, Angela Knight is also under that imprint, so I'm going to read Angela Knight because she's probably going to be similar to Thea Harrison. And who else was in Paranormal Romance? Well, and then Harlequin at one time, had its own kind of fantasy imprint in Luna Publishing. So, Mercedes Lackey put her 500 Kingdoms out under Luna Publishing, and I was like, well, if you like this, maybe you like something else put out by Luna Publishing, because it was very specifically kind of fantasy romance type stuff that wasn't 100% fantasy romance tropes by female authors. So, like, maybe you'd like Maria Snyder instead as well, on top of that. So, bookstore, you would go into a bookstore and you just look around looking for publishers you knew, or, authors that that maybe when you look at a book and it has a book blurb on the front of it from an author you already know recommending the book, that's part of marketing. That's part of getting that blurb from on on a Kim Harrison book from Jim Butcher, or from Laurel K. Hamilton, or from Ilona Davis, or whatever, or Vicki Peterson, is marketing, and that's what traditional publishing houses do. They pass your book around to authors who have similar things to you, hoping to get, a little sentence from them that they can put on the front of the book to encourage, readers to go, oh, my favorite author liked this book, so I'll like this book. Or my best friend liked this book, so I'll like this book. Or, maybe they're going to the library and they're getting recommendations from librarians. That's your sales funnel. You're not seeing advertisements on TV. You're not really hearing advertisements on the radio. And I don't want to discount BookTube and Book Talk and Book Twitter. My issue is what I've seen with the trends I've seen with particularly Book Talk and BookTube, and even these book blog reviewers, when blogging was more of a big deal than it is nowadays, is that you're going to get, say, a book published in 2016, it's going, 4 or 5 years later, Book Talk is going to get a hold of it, and it's going to be this really big thing. And that doesn't, okay, that helps authors get more royalties off that book. So, yay, the authors are getting royalties off that book. But it does not help an author, a debut author, or, a first print run book of the author, because it won't help them, because them having a surge in book sales 4 or 5 years later means the sales, the first sales have already been determined. So the first sales that have gone through have already determined their next advance for the next book, and has determined the next print run for the next book. So, I don't want to discount like these social media influencers. Occasionally you will get somebody getting their debut up to on the New York Times bestseller list because of Book Talk. I know the Iron Widow had that, but it's a unicorn, and she was doing other things, before she was saying, oh, by the way, I'm publishing a book. And she also went through pitch wars too, and the book really shows that it went through a pitch wars process, and in a good way. When I say that, it's a compliment, not derogatory. So the sales funnel is not as the same as other industries, and so Barnes & Noble, by saying, oh, we're not going to carry these debuts, we're not going to put hardcovers into our store in favor for soft covers, means that the sales funnel has been chopped, in that these authors have to go find something else that they hope will, widen their sales funnel. But, this means they're not going to get as many sales. This means their next print run is not going to be as big as it could be if Barnes & Noble had continued to stock it. It means they're not going to get as big as of an advance. And here we have Penguin Random House spending the last 2 to 3 years, all these publishers the last 2 to 3 years arguing among each other about who's going to buy out Simon and Schuster, and, close down, narrow the book buying market even more. It's I wish I had more energy to be infuriated. I really do, because it's just, and them having the gall to say it won't change anything. Look, things are changing. Barnes & Noble doing this is changing. Amazon constantly undercutting the competition. When Amazon does a sale, it comes out of the author's royalties. They cut 50. They put a book up 50% on sale. Well, if the author was getting 25 cents out of that sale, now they're getting 12.5 cents. It has, so And it's not like Amazon is going, oh, even though we were a book distributor business for such a long time, and we started on books in a garage. I love that fantasy, really. You know, it doesn't mean that we're gonna start opening brick and mortar stores. We just want, you know, we want to be the book Netflix. Really? So, this is just some really bad trends of what's going on in the book industry. Like, I really wish, you know, I really wish it wasn't that way. You know, I personally, this is my personal thing, I have upwards of half a dozen. I mean, I have like 9 different projects I can work on, 9, 10 different projects I can work on. And some of them are in first drafts, some of them are still in research, some of them, you know, need outlines. And it's very difficult for me to be looking at my different ideas and go, are these ideas within genre boxes enough to be considered marketable, to be mass marketable, so that they would actually make it through a query process to, you know, in an editing process to be, you know, pitched to a publisher? Are my ideas, you know, are my projects marketable enough for me to even consider to try to take those 2 to 3, now 4 or 5 years, if, you know, you've got 5 or 6 agents and doing one type in a single agency, is there, is it even worth my time and investment to try to do this? I mean, I really want to finish these ideas. I really want to, you know, get the first drafts done, you know, so I can put them out there in the world so other people could enjoy them, you know, not just me. And it's like, well, maybe the only way, maybe, you know, maybe the only way to get an actual publishing deal anymore is to participate in pitch wars and get selected. You know, it's not just participating in pitch wars. You have to be selected and you have to go through that mentoring process and before you query agents, so the agents know you're out there to begin with. Or maybe it's, you know, maybe I'm not good at writing short stories, but if you are good at writing short stories, maybe you do have to spend the time and write all these short stories in literary magazines and hopefully get awards, so that these agents will be willing to meet with you and pick you up. Because and then but even then, you know, we've got a monopsony going. They can set the prices. There, it's none of this is in your control. They're not even willing to guarantee any type of marketing plan. You know, they're not willing to say, oh, we'll get you movie rights. Oh, we'll do a book tour. Oh, you know, in finance that book tour. They're not willing to say, we'll give your book the 2 or 3 edits it needs, because they just don't have enough editors anymore, and they're not willing to pay the editors to do it, so they're not getting that edit that they're supposed to. So that becomes something that the cost gets put on you, you know. And if, you know, if Barnes & Noble's not willing to put out hardcovers, that means, you know, you're going to be relying a lot more on your e-sales, on your Audible sales. I mean, it used to be that you didn't get an Audible book all the time. Now you might not have a choice but to do an Audible book if they see, oh, Audible book sales are going up. Well, of course Audible book sales are going up. You have every single YouTube content creator that you can think of pushing Audible. Of course your Audible book sales are going up, you know, because, oh, there seems to be some sort of cause and effect here. If you're not pushing ebooks anymore, your ebook sales will stagnate, and if you're pushing Audible book sales, your Audible book sales will stagnate. So, will go up, you know. So, even though they're saying, we don't have any control of this, it's all random. If you're sitting here on the other side, you know it's not. And we can only hope that the Department of Justice is like, no, this is not going to work. And, you know, keeps the big five the big five. I would really, really love to see the Department of Justice go in and break up some of these Penguin Random House, toss some of the stuff out of HarperCollins and Macmillan and stuff like that. You know, make some of these smaller imprints their own publishing houses again. You know, we need some new. Maybe we need to invest in this country in a few more printers, so that there are more printers for publishing houses to get quotes out of, to get books printed, or, you know, I would dearly, dearly love to see a revamp of the advanced system too, as well, and some new ways to make sure, you know, yes, that classical, I don't want to call it classical, but, you know, classic books are available and out there to be bought, but there is still enough room on the shelves for modern and debut contemporary authors. But they don't seem to care, because they're still making a lot of money on the system and the way it is now. And that's tough. That's tough for everybody, you know. Plus, just basic economics of rising rent costs and, you know, price gouging, so on and so forth. So eventually, if things keep going the way they are, the only people who are going to be able to afford to write books and, you know, not do anything else are rich people. And that's going to be a very, very sad day. So, thank you for listening. I hope, as an indie author, I was able to clarify some of this for you guys and why this is a really, really bad idea. And also, I hope I'll be able to do more of these face-to-face videos with you guys in my new recording space. So, take care of yourselves, bless, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.